This is an 11 Alive Voices for Equality special. Black History Month, Women of the Movement.
Welcome to 11 Alive's special Voices for Equality. I'm Aisha Howard. It's our mission here at 11 Alive to help lift up those who are doing some amazing things to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion all across Atlanta. In the next half hour, we're celebrating Black history through the faces and stories of the women behind the movement. They are trailblazers, pioneers, innovators, and icons. From the ladies who first set the stage to those who are now carrying the torch, it's time to take a closer look at how Black women are shaping our rich history. Hosea Williams is one of Atlanta's most celebrated civil rights leaders. He was an ordained minister, an activist, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s right-hand man. Under the flagship of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Williams organized civil protests against racial, political, and social injustices. Williams was a businessman and a philanthropist, giving back to Georgia and the country with his Atlanta-based organization, Hosea Feeds the Hungry. He leaves behind a legacy that continues to grow with every passing generation. But it's his wife, Juanita Williams, who also belongs in our history books. She helped to plant the seed with her devotion to the cause and to her family, all while making it her mission to make Atlanta better.
The power of a quiet mind was Juanita Williams.
Standing just over 5 foot, Juanita Williams' children remember her as a giant amongst them.
She did not allow her fears to prevent her from doing what she felt that she needed to do. Because it was still the 50s, it was still the whole perception of women as caretakers only and not as leaders. I don't think that they were behind them, the men. They were beside the men.
And Juanita's husband, Hosea Williams, was propelled to the national spotlight.
She was the wife of the man who was responsible for organizing all of Martin Luther King's movements.
Helping organize those marches while taking care of 5 children, giving up her dream of becoming a writer and picking up a dream of freedom.
She walked away from all of her dreams. And that's what these women did. But then they also had the fear of their families being in danger. Because at one point, the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross in our yard and we went into hiding.
Those dangers, the Williams sisters believe, are still having an impact of those who were on the front lines.
And I think that the violence that I saw growing up, a lot of the civil rights children have post-traumatic stress syndrome. Okay, they suffer even today.
But nonetheless, she persisted, running for Atlanta City Council in 1977 unsuccessfully. It wasn't until 1984 when she was elected to the state legislature, where she served 4 terms, all while still finding time to help her husband with his organization, Hosea Feed the Hungry.
If somebody needed to cook cornbread because daddy decided to feed homeless people, she was there. If she needed to cook soup to feed homeless people, because that's what he was doing, she was there.
I mean, her vegetable soup was a family staple.
This is when a vision becomes an organism separate from the personality.
A vision that would not have been realized without their mother's powerful presence and sacrifice.
She really believed in the movement, and she felt that that sacrifice was worth it for her.
From the first Black woman on the ballot to the TV pioneer who captured culture in Atlanta, she's been standing on stages for the past 60 years with the continuous mission of moving her community forward. She's created her own path while making sure the light continues to shine for the generations coming up behind her. And she tells us she's not done yet. Jennifer Bellamy is here with more on the life and legacy of Zernona Clayton.
The civil rights movement meant my life, my world, my hope.
It's a hope Zernona Clayton has been able to watch manifest over many decades. a hope she helped create when she moved to Atlanta in 1965. And just like many women of the movement, she wore many hats.
One thing you find that when you're in the struggle for equality, there's no such thing as a role. You do whatever has to be done.
But you didn't see her or many other women of the movement on the front lines for a reason.
Dr. King really didn't want us as women to be on the firing line in those awful marches.
The women worked out the logistics.
If they were hurt, we got to fix them up. If they go to jail, we got to get the money to get them out of jail.
Even raising money for the movement by going on tours across the South and putting on concerts, developing her lifelong friendship with Coretta Scott King.
That friendship did a lot for me and my relationship with Dr. King and the movement.
Her most prominent role yet came in 1967, when she became the South's first African American to host her own primetime show here in Atlanta.
But I really had on my mind all the time that I've got to be good, because this is going to be an example. Opening the door was the feeling I still have today.
She continues to open doors for her community today while putting their accomplishments on display through her foundation and her annual Trumpet Awards show.
It propels me to do the next good, that I don't run away from people who are in need.
And her words to the next generation of freedom fighters:
do as much as you can, as often as you can, but never sit on your can.
Ms. Clayton has been honored with the street sign and Park Plaza in downtown Atlanta. She will be memorialized with a statue later this year. She is more than just the wife of a Hall of Famer.
And it just sort of dawned on me that, hey, women can be active in the community too. So why don't I give it a try? Why don't I do what I can to get involved?
Women of the movement, how Billie Aaron broke racial barriers of her own. Hank Aaron, a legend on and off field, from his home run record to his philanthropic endeavors. But he isn't the Aaron who helped change the game. We want to shine a spotlight on his widow, Billie Aaron, who was by his side for decades while breaking racial barriers all of her own. She is a legend in her own right, spending a large part of her 86 years of life serving her community and moving them forward. Our Sheba Russell shows us Billie Aaron's brave moves and lasting impact.
If you Google Billie Aaron's name, you'll find her mentioned in articles outlining her husband's accomplishments.
A high drive into deep left center field.
But over the course of her 86 years, Mrs. Aaron has been a trailblazer in her own right, dedicating her life to activism, education, philanthropy, and family.
And it just sort of dawned on me that, hey, women can be active in the community too. So why don't I give it a try? Why don't I do what I can to get involved?
In 1970, Billie was left widowed. 3 years later, she fell in love with Henry Hank Aaron, marrying him on November 12, 1973. The duo quickly becoming one of Atlanta's most dynamic couples.
The love he had for Mrs. Aaron, it was just a tremendous love story to watch the two of them and how supportive they were of one another.
After stints on 2 talk shows, Mrs. Aaron served as the development director for the Atlanta branch of the United Negro College Fund, furthering her love for education. Throughout her 14-year tenure with the organization, she co-hosted the Lou Rawls Parade of Stars telethon and co-founded the Mayor's Masked Ball, an event she continues to support and attend to this day, even after Henry's death.
I was sitting there thinking of the talks we had sometimes during the ball and how very much I miss him. And I used him all those years to help attract celebrity guests, and he was very supportive. He supported me all the way.
And after he retired in '94, she and Henry began the Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream Foundation, awarding scholarships to help underserved children go to college.
And that's what is lacking so often in our community. You just don't have the opportunity to show your skills.
Their goal? To help 755 students across the country. Once they reached their goal, they kept funding hundreds more scholarships, helping remove barriers between students and their dreams.
Only those who have gone through the struggle, only those who understand what it means to go without, but who know that in giving, we receive. And in giving, we come to understand that love, support, and appreciation can help your fellow man along the way.
A belief she hopes will stick around long after she's gone.
That she gave it her best. It wasn't always good enough, but she gave it her best.
From the field to the court, coaching greatness takes time, patience, and drive. One of the greatest players in professional sports right now got started playing right here in Atlanta. Coco Gauff lights up the women's tennis court and has inspired millions of girls all around the world. Her former coach says Coco was bound to be a star, but learning how to succeed started early. Jewel Peterson takes our Caitlin Ross inside the journey of a champion.
Jewel Peterson wants people to love tennis as much as she does.
First, enjoy the game, because this game is going to make you really upset.
She first picked up a racket when she was just 4 years old and says she's grateful for all of the athletes she had to look up to.
When we talk about black women in tennis, there is a long history. I mean, we can go all the way back to Althea Gibson, and from Althea Gibson to Zena Garrison and Lori McNeil, who were my mentors.
She says seeing these athletes compete at the highest level is inspiring to all of the young players in her coaching academy.
And now they've got the mindset that because they did, I can.
Jewel was a pro athlete herself, playing on the WTA before she moved into coaching. She started giving lessons to Coco Gauff when the tennis superstar was just 8 years old.
Coco was amazing. I loved working with her. She was fantastic. She was the coach's dream.
She's watching Coco's career soar with pride, and she's been even more proud of the young athlete for using her platform to speak out about social justice.
Athletes are now celebrities, and you know, when it comes to what you wear, when it comes to what you eat, we are all taking cues from athletes, so why can't we take a cue from them when it comes to social injustice?
And she's proud of Coco for supporting other young athletes, speaking out about their own struggles with social issues and mental health.
We're really big on helping them develop the mental tenacity they need.
While she doesn't see Coco 3 hours a day on the court anymore, she says she's always cheering on her former student.
Really think that she's going to go extremely far. I mean, I think she's going to be #1 in the world one day.
Picking up where women of the civil rights movement left off. Up next, the story behind how Stacey Abrams became a political force and those who inspired her to rise as a leader among Georgia's Democratic Party. She's a politician, writer, and voting rights activist, a vision born from the struggle of black women from the past. But while many will call Stacey Abrams Black History in the Making, she says it's a title she hasn't quite earned yet. Here's Hope Ford.
My name is Stacey Abrams, and I tend to be the next step.
When you think of the civil rights movement, you may think of the most famous of names: Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, John Lewis. But what about the women who stood behind, besides, and sometimes in front of them?
Often women were unsung heroes, but they were also essential parts of how strategy was made and executed.
Coretta Scott Kings, Shirley Chisholm, black women of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, paving the way for women of the 80s, 90s, and today. And some would say Stacey Abrams is picking up where they left off.
The black women who shaped the narrative of what it means to be strong and to be a patriot, to defend our nation, but also to define what we're capable of.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
Replicating their efforts, making history, or maybe herstory herself. A bid for Georgia governor in 2018, winning the Democratic primary, the first black woman in the country to be a major party's nominee for governor. A first, just like her mother.
But my mother in particular, Carolyn Abrams, who overcame poverty and an undereducation to become the first woman in her family to go to college, the first one to graduate from high school.
And even though Abrams lost her 2018 run to now Governor Brian Kemp, she found a renewed purpose, something she learned from another of her family's matriarchs.
It was my paternal grandmother who really helped me understand the importance of democracy and voting.
To preserve that liberty, Abrams launched Fair Fight Initiative, helping to register voters and protect their rights in 20 battleground states.
It is quite an honorific to be given, but something I still have to earn.
Whatever Abrams does today, she says it will always be because of the ones of yesterday.
They are stewards of a history that we have to hold.
Black women are filling a space that's never been occupied before in Atlanta. How 4 women are leading the charge to create a more equitable city for everyone.
Eleven Alive Morning News.
We began with breaking news this morning.
Is where you know what's happening now.
11 Alive is live on the scene.
Where you can confidently plan ahead.
This severe weather is intensifying.
By knowing what's coming overhead. And we're Atlanta's traffic expert.
We've seen delays almost 30 minutes worth of driving.
Helps you get there on time. Every time. 11 Alive Morning News is where you start the day prepared. Watch weekdays 5 to 7 a.m.
Stories of Black excellence have shaped our city and our world. But if you take a look around, Black history is now. 4 Black women currently hold Chief Equity Officer roles in key offices that are the pulse of Atlanta. I talked to them inside State Farm Arena with the perfect backdrop, the newly unveiled MLK Wall. While we recognize our history, these women are part of pushing the movement forward. There's a new kind of CEO in town. Matter of fact, there are 4 of them.
Chief Equity Officer.
4 Black women filling a space that's never been occupied in 4 of Atlanta's most significant offices. They are all the first Chief Equity Officers, starting with the Mayor's Office, Atlanta Public Schools, the Atlanta Beltline, and Invest Atlanta.
It's dynamic. I don't know of any city in the country, really, that has what we have going on this quad.
This sister circle formed after Khadira Abdul-Rahim was the first to officially put the Chief Equity Officer role on the books with the city of Atlanta. She realized she wasn't alone.
This is certainly a moment. I talked about the social storm that's been created. I think that we can create an equity storm to trump that storm and really pave a blueprint for a new civil rights agenda for this city and for this world.
And to receive Khadira's email, it just made me say, okay, we're all in this together, and somebody wants to tell this important story for the next generation. I think it's hugely important.
Following the explosion of the social justice movement surrounding the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, the push to fill diversity, equity, and inclusion roles skyrocketed in 2020. According to the professional networking site LinkedIn, diversity roles are up 71% over the last 5 years.
I often worry that our roles will be reduced once the moment is gone. And what I want to say today is that it cannot.
Dr. Tauhida Baker-Jones's role also includes the title of Social Justice Officer with Atlanta Public Schools. Data shows within APS it would take 128 years to close the gap between Black and white students.
And helping folks recognize that this work isn't about baiting, shaming, or guilting. We did not create these barriers. We did not create these systems. We inherited them.
Getting that message across has been one of the greatest challenges for this group of women.
To have a group of sisters that said, no, stick in there. You know, I want to encourage you and inspire you to stay motivated. The work that you're doing is having movement.
As our society works to better understand the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion roles and how they benefit our society as a whole, these 4 women with one vision say it's really simple and all comes down to this.
The only thing that I encourage you to do is make decisions based on people's humanity and dignity. And if we can start there, that will take us a long way.
And these ladies are just scratching the surface. Atlanta's Black women are making a difference in industries big and small, showing us all the difference representation makes. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Aisha Howard. To read more about these women and the stories of countless other Black Georgians who have impacted our state, go to 11alive.com/Black History Month.